And we're back. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here to spend some time with me and hear what I have to say. My name is Alex Johnson. I'm going into my senior year of mechanical engineering, getting my degree from the University of Arizona to get my bachelor's degree. And I wanted to share a video explaining some of the biggest things that I've learned so far getting my degree and if I feel like it is worth it. This is a video for anyone interested in mechanical engineering, getting a degree in general, or maybe just interested in hearing about my experience so far getting one. A lot of times college can get a bad rap, especially where getting a degree might not be as valuable sometimes as it once was. Hopefully this information I share can be beneficial to anyone that might be on the fence about whether getting a degree is beneficial to you or not in your circumstance. To be totally transparent, I'm indifferent about the topic because for me, it made sense to go to school and to get this specific degree, but I know there might be a lot of other people out there that get a degree in something else and might regret it because it's not as useful as they thought it would be. So hopefully this video can save you some time or give you valuable information if you're thinking about getting a degree. So here are the biggest lessons I've learned from getting a mechanical engineering degree. I've learned that if you stick with it, anybody can get one. Yes, it's very math intensive. You do go deep into physics. You deal with a lot of numbers and complicated variables. Everything that you might be scared of when you're younger, going through the math classes and going through the science classes. You'll be introduced to programs like SolidWorks, AutoCAD, or MATLAB, and these things are great tools. They seem very complicated at first and not very intuitive in my opinion, but they help you to design, to model, to compute really hard formulas and break down numbers in a way that you just cannot do by hand. And if you've never heard of these before, that's okay. I hadn't either, because all of it can be learned and understood with time if that's what you choose to do. If you were to have asked me right out of high school if I wanted to become an engineer, I would have laughed at you. I did not think I was good at math. That was the story I told myself. And I wanted to go into medicine. I thought if I became a doctor, I wouldn't have to use math. And that's still a challenging and prestigious degree, so that's what I was interested in. The math classes just really did not make sense to me at the time. And when I wanted to go into engineering and when I started going down that road, I had to go through basically all of the math classes again, starting from basic algebra. It had been a long time since I practiced math and I was very rusty at it. I remember one particular evening after taking an algebra test, feeling so defeated, feeling very anxious and stressed. I didn't think that I would be able to do it. I knew a lot of other people could be good at math, but I didn't think that my mind thought that way or could comprehend it, which is a lie that a lot of people do tell themselves. I tell you this story because maybe you can relate to it, and I know a lot of people have fear of the tough degrees, the tough classes, and they don't think that they can do it. In my experience, I've seen different groups of people in engineering. There are those that knew that they wanted to be an engineer at the age of 6. It comes very easy to them. It's very intuitive, and they just got it. And then there's people, probably like me, that stumbled in engineering. They knew that it'd be worth it. They wanted to do it. They're interested in it, but they have to work really hard for it. And you have to go through the turbulence to get to the same place as the other group. But at the end of the day, it's still worth it and you can still achieve that degree. Many of my classmates and even people I work with in engineering don't fit the math whiz, nerdy stereotype, but they are there because they just didn't give up. Now, it does take a lot of effort. It takes practice. It takes working with tutors, asking questions, and having a willingness to push yourself in that way to continue to learn new concepts. But I do know that with a willingness to work, anyone can get that degree that they think is very challenging to them. Now, moving on to the next thing that I've learned, which is how to study a topic and ask questions until I totally understand it. In engineering, and I presume a lot of other degrees, the higher you go up, the more that you will use the freshman and sophomore level information and concepts to help you with the more complicated topics. And a lot of topics in engineering seem very random or arbitrary, but they're usually the laws of the universe, and they make more sense once you connect the pieces from earlier classes and ask more questions until you fully understand the concept. Much of my time studying for mechanical engineering has seemed like a recipe or a process, and that is you take a concept that you heard about in class, something that you're confused about, and you break it down. You ask questions to yourself and you really dissect it until you understand what it is. Here's an example of what I'm talking about, and something that you'll see a lot if you choose to go down mechanical engineering. If you have a ramp with 2 blocks on it at different weights, why does the heavier block slide faster? What are the forces involved in that? And before you do anything, you have to look at this question and you have to understand a lot of different things about it. One, what do I need to understand about forces or Newton's laws to break this down? Do I know about those off the top of my head? Do I need to go back and study other topics before I can tackle this question? That's a real thing that I've done and that you will see. Maybe I've lost a couple of you, and the rest of you probably think this is really boring, but at the end of the day, this is problem solving. Engineering is all about problem solving, and in the real world, life brings a lot of problems, and you become valuable if you can solve those and if you can find solutions to complex problems. So to summarize this point, mechanical engineering has helped me to problem solve and to take a very complicated topic and to break it into different pieces, to understand what questions to ask so that I can fully understand that. At the end of the day, the homework assignments, the tests, the exams, and the scores that you get on them will probably not amount to much and won't help you later on. But the things that you learn with how to study, how to problem solve, and how to work through that, that's what's going to help you in your life and in your career moving forward. Another lesson I've learned while going through engineering is finding my strengths and weaknesses. As school gets harder, as you move through a degree that becomes increasingly challenging, you have to figure out what you're good at and what you might not be as good at. And this is a good thing. Luckily, you don't have to fit a certain type of mold to become an engineer. You just have to use your gifts and your talents to help you through and to become successful in the classes. Everyone has different gifts, and luckily you have the freedom to use your talents and to help you pass classes and get a degree. So what do I mean by this? I had to design a personal plan for myself of how I best perform in class. This is how it looks for me. I have to sit in the front of a class in every class I go to. I have to have my notes ready. I use an iPad. And when we're going through a lecture, I write down questions in the margins if I have any about the topic. What do I not understand? What do I need clarification on? And this helps me to become involved, to stay involved, and to participate in the lectures. I also found out that if I have to study for an exam or for any kind of test, I do best if I lock myself in a room and if I just practice problems, if I read through a textbook, look up tutorial videos, and that's what helps me, kind of being alone and being able to focus on what I need to help me through an exam or to understand topics. But I know many people that are the complete opposite, and I have friends that can sit in the very back of a class and they can study with their friends and just do some practice problems, and then they can ace a test. But I'm not that way. So being able to go through this degree has helped me to understand how I operate and how I can get the best results, through studying and planning and following a recipe for success that applies to me. But everyone is different, and going through a degree like this, it's all about finding what works for you. And in this environment, you're slammed with tests, with exams, with all these different assignments, so you learn pretty quickly what works and what does not work for you personally. So moving on to number 4, or this last lesson that I have, which is you can learn anything that you put your mind to. If I could go back to my freshman self who was nearly in tears about basic algebra, I would show him some of the problems that I can work through now, which might be, a distribution of forces, how fluid works in a complicated system, and how you can predict things like a piece of metal and at what stress value it will break at if you pull it. All these things that sound pretty cool and very complicated, I remind myself of where I started. I looked at a line and finding the rise over run of that, stressed me out. I didn't think that I could do that. But the point being here, the mind is a muscle. And if you exercise it, if you work on it, you will be able to understand the topics that seem very scary to you. And if you're not looking to go into mechanical engineering, that's okay. This can apply to finances. This can apply to car repairs, to understanding anything like that in your own life. Working on your mind and practicing those things, working through it, being able to problem solve will help you. In my opinion, the main reason things like math and physics are not very popular is because They're pretty complicated topics, and the majority of people might not be willing to put their mind to it and to break it down and understand it. It's not because they're so complex that only some people can understand. It really just comes down to the willingness to learn it. And through focused practice, through consistency, and a willingness to learn, I think you'd be surprised as to what you can actually do and what you can learn if you put your mind to it and then take action. So these are some big takeaways that I've had through getting a degree in mechanical engineering and the lessons that I'll be able to take with me throughout my career and my personal life. But is it worth it? The last thing that I'll touch on. So in my opinion, getting a degree in engineering is worth it for anyone who is remotely interested in the topics that you will learn and who wants to use that degree getting a job after school. I will say that compared to other degrees, engineers will have a very good chance at getting a good, well-paying job right out of school because employers will look at that and understand that you spent 4 to 5 years going through complicated classes and staying consistent, and that proves that you can be a good employer and handle big problems. So I'm glad that I'm getting my degree. I'm also glad that I'm almost done with it, and I know that there are many ways that it has made me more valuable as an individual, to the world, and in the workplace. Now, if engineering sounds boring to you, I do want to assure you that just because you get that degree does not mean that you will be stuck at a desk for the rest of your working life being a mechanical engineer or a chemical engineer, whatever it is. But I do want you to know that sometimes just having that piece of paper saying that you got a degree in engineering is your ticket for the door to open to many opportunities, some of which might not even have to relate with the degree that you got. But you are showing an employer, you're showing companies, and sometimes really big companies that are willing to pay you money and give you good experiences that you were smart enough and had the tenacity to get a challenging degree. But on the other hand, I do know that there are many people that might not benefit from this degree or maybe even getting a degree at all. And that's okay. There's many ways to make a living, to make money, and to excel in whatever it is that you want to do. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that I'm getting my degree and it has helped me. And those are some of the biggest takeaways and lessons that I have learned so far. So thank you guys. Make sure to like and comment on this video. Comment anything that you thought was valuable or interesting, or let me know if there are other topics that you want me to dive deeper in the future. So like always, thank you. I appreciate you, and I will see you next time.